Hi, thank you for joining me. This is the first in my series of videos about mental illness. I want to talk about that because there's so much of it around. It's a worldwide silent epidemic. Just the words mental illness scare people because they think it means crazy, but it doesn't. Depression and anxiety are very common mental disorders. A lot of mental illnesses are anxiety related. I have suffered from depression and acute anxiety, so I know just how awful it is. There are millions of other people who have gone through it or are going through it now and feel like they're drowning. I'm a lot better now. I came through the other side, but that's because I got treated. If I hadn't, I dread to think how I would be now. It's such an important issue that often people want to brush under the carpet and not think about. It's far more common than a lot of people realise. Around 1 in 4 people will suffer from a mental illness at some point in their lives. But the stigma around it makes it all so much harder. It's not helped by the fact that people make fun of it. They see it as a bit of a joke, except that it's not funny. It's deadly serious. People languish for a long time because they don't want to seek help. They feel so ashamed. They're afraid of other people's reactions, being labelled, and what will happen to them. So they just suffer in silence and try to fix themselves, but they can't. They get worse, and there comes a point where something has to give. That dam will break. People can end up killing themselves because they become so tormented and desperate that they just want to make it stop and they can't see any other way. That's why this stigma is so dangerous, because it kills. We need to be able to talk about it and see it for what it is, which is just another type of illness. Other people give unhelpful advice because of lack of understanding about mental health. It's not something that you choose and can just stop by yourself. It's not because you're crazy. It's not caused by demonic possession. It's not because you're weak. It's a malfunctioning of the brain. Organs can malfunction, and the brain is no different. It's not always clear what causes it. There isn't one single cause. Every case is different. But it's very common for people to develop post-traumatic stress disorder, depression and anxiety disorders following a traumatic event, or sometimes from too much ongoing stress. People get shaken about by life. They go through some kind of trauma. They experience mental illness. It's a simple equation. A lot of soldiers develop PTSD from being in military combat. Victims of war suffer from it a lot, understandably, because they're subjected to so much trauma. It's what happens when the brain is overloaded and trying to deal with more than it can handle. How it manifests is different in each person. Some people start having panic attacks. Some people develop agoraphobia, which is the fear of going outside. Some people develop other anxiety disorders. Some people go into a deep depression. Some people develop addictions. It's a response. Some of the fear around it comes from the past, when mental illness was not understood, and mental health patients were feared because people thought they were insane or possessed. There was no treatment for it, and patients were put into asylums that weren't much more than prisons, where they were just constantly drugged up with sedatives to make them more calm, because that was all they could do. People were very afraid of ending up in an asylum because they might never come out. And unfortunately, those images from the past haven't completely gone away. Now, we're so lucky that things have changed so much. Patients are not locked up or strapped to beds anymore. Most people don't need to be hospitalised, and mental illnesses can be treated now. When people are treated, they usually can live normal lives. It's when it goes untreated that things get out of control. The media hasn't helped with the fear either. Films and TV have portrayed mental health patients so badly. They're just used as objects of comedy. They're shown as being violent and dangerous, which is just so inaccurate. Most of the time they're not. Usually they're far more likely to be a danger to themselves than anyone else. A few years ago, the British supermarket giants Tesco and Asda came under fire for selling a Halloween costume called Mental Patient. There was outrage about this on social media, and they were forced to withdraw it from sale. To try and redeem themselves, they promised to donate £25,000 to a mental health charity. I don't know how they ever thought this was okay, but they paid a high price for it. The way the media and the entertainment industry use mental illness is very irresponsible and degrading, and it reinforces all the beliefs. So it's not hard to see why people keep quiet about it, but the consequences of this can be catastrophic. Mental illness distorts your thinking and perceptions. There is a line in a song by The Who: "Sickness will surely take the mind where minds can't usually go." This describes mental illness perfectly. You're not your usual self. Your mood is low. Often the world feels a lot more threatening and scary, so you want to hide from it. A lot of people don't realise they're ill because you don't feel yourself becoming sick. You don't feel your thought process is changing. You just find yourself in this very dark world and you don't know how you got there. Sometimes it needs other people to intervene because the person can't see that there's anything wrong. That's why it's so necessary to understand it. Good things can come out of mental illness. I first started writing all this when I was recovering from a mental illness, so it can be a catalyst for something new in your life, but going through it is a living hell. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Thinking about it now still sends shivers down my spine. That's why I'm so passionate about raising awareness and education on mental health, and for people to be able to speak up about it without being judged or shamed. We need to remove the stigma and get rid of all these outdated images and beliefs, because the consequences can be serious, both for the person and for their family. If you're worried about someone you know, talk to them about it. Get advice from a mental health organisation. Talking saves lives. Silence takes lives. If you're experiencing depression, anxiety, or any other mental health problems, don't just suffer in silence, because it is serious and it won't get any better. It will just get worse. You can't get better on your own. You can't cure it just with positive thinking. That doesn't work. The only way is to seek treatment. Always the first thing to do is to see the doctor. Usually treatment involves medication and some kind of talking therapy. It's not a quick process and it's hard work. You have to commit to it, but it's worth it. And when you do, there comes a point where the direction changes from going further down to going back up. Then there's often a period of readjustment where you feel confusion, disorientation, your mood is up and down like a yo-yo. It's like when there's an earthquake. The aftershocks continue for a while, but they get smaller, and you get closer to some kind of normality until you're more like your usual self again. You don't come out of it unchanged, but you come out stronger. Sometimes you have to take medication for life, but so what? People have to take medication for all kinds of things, and it's a lot better than the alternative. I take antidepressant medication, and I don't see it as a big deal. It gives me quality of life, so it's worth it. I hope this has been helpful. I will be doing more on this. Thank you for watching. See you next time.